planning team guests, and of course, a very special welcome to those who are watching us live stream right now. This is a monumental time for the Washington State 4-H program. This is our live stream town hall meeting from our 4-H Know Your Government Conference. Each year, the 4-H Know Your Government Conference attracts amazing ideas that are put forth by young people. In fact, some of the most impressive in our state. And now we can finally show everyone, not only those amazing young people, but those great ideas. And though the future appears to be right this minute, I'd like to share a historical quote by our third president, Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson said, "The basis of our government's being is the opinion of its people. The very first objective should be to keep that right. And were it left to me to decide whether we should have a government without newspapers or newspapers without government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter. But what I should mean is that everyone should receive those papers and be capable of reading them." Now, what in the world possible significance does that 18th century opinion mean today in our 21st century of hashtags, Twitter, Facebook, and all done in 140 characters or less? Certainly that 18th century third president, Jefferson, could not have expected a nation that would be so short on newspapers and yet so abundant in instantaneous news. It's the culmination of all the work that has occurred at this conference, a culmination that you're going to very shortly see, that would affirm President Jefferson's opinion more than ever. The basis of our government's being is that of opinions. And in order for us to establish that basis and create a positive, powerful, representational, engaged government, we must know that every man, woman, and young person can interpret, understand, reflect, and apply upon news and information. As you watch this town hall meeting, remember your voice can be stronger than ever, and I urge you to use it. For those of you who are viewing us virtually, please tweet us at hashtag WA, KYG 2015, and let us know where you're watching us from. Now, what you're going to see happening in front of you is that a conference facilitator, in this case, Taylor will be our first one up, from each color group will come up to introduce the group's topic. They'll give hashtags that apply to that specific group. And after the introduction, the delegates will present, during which time you can tweet your questions. Ooh! Tweeting will be afoot. Once the presentation concludes, the facilitator will direct questions to the group. After those are answered, the next group will come up. So Taylor, take it away. Let's get started.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Taylor Ruggles, here with the Pink Group, to talk about death penalty in Washington State. As a reminder, don't forget when you're tweeting your questions and comments to use the hashtag WAKYG2015 or WAKYG2015. Also, use the hashtag DTHSEN with your questions and comments. Thank you.
Penalty is the punishment of execution. It is the legal process done to a villain who has committed either treason or aggravated murder of the first degree. We think it should be an option just with life and 10-year sentence. Would it be right to let or allow such a villain out into the public again? With both life and yearly sentences, he can go back to court and ask to be released back to the public. We also need a way to remove villains instead of letting them live their lives away in life sentence with others who have done lesser crimes.
If the death penalty was a punishment that was more widely accepted and a faster process, there would be less crime. People in general are frightened of death. It's the way we were created. If the threat of death was there front and center, those who are potential villains would think about their potential punishment and be deterred from committing their particular crime. Families have to go through so much when they lose a loved one to murder. They must have a way to know that the villain that committed the crime is being removed from this earth from their crime. They should be allowed to choose whether the villain should live or die. They are also given updates how the process is going and where it is at.
We believe that the death penalty allows us to remove people who have committed horrible crimes. It is one thing to think of killing someone or doing a crime of equal worth. It is another to go through with it and commit the crime.
An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. This quote was said by Gandhi, perhaps the most famous peacemaker in history. Isn't it a little bit ironic that in our judicial system, we think that murdering is the most horrible crime that can possibly be committed? So our solution for it is to kill them. The victim's family does go through a lot by losing a loved one. And if they do choose for that person to be put to the death penalty, they do not forget about it. They go through it constantly, and they're constantly reminded of their tragedy. They have to do lawyers and death sentences and everything else that you have to. And it's not just one and done. It's continuously for multiple years. The average time someone spends on death row is 192 months. That's 192 months that the victim's family does not get closure. In today's society, there is great technology that can help convict people. But in the future, there's going to be better technology that can prove someone innocent. In America, there have been at least 74 misconvictions in which someone has been killed. And they don't get to be alive anymore. They were killed for something that they didn't do. That is 74 people who will never get to see their family again. That is 74 people who were killed for no good reason. But apparently, it's okay. Because in our society, that's what we should do.
On a more practical note, cases where the death penalty is sought cost on average $1 million more than similar cases that do not result in the death penalty. In addition, the average amount of time an inmate spends on death row before being executed is 192 months or 16 years. We believe as a society that it is unethical to kill, yet we kill as punishment. Who are we to decide who has the right to live or who doesn't?
It's not society, it's the criminal. You let him out, he'll kill you all. That's why we need death penalty for the safety of you and me.
Stand up, stand up. Help us all get fired up. Stand up, stand up. Help us all get fired up. Hey, get with it. Murder the innocent. Big and little, oh no, no. Big and little, oh no, no.
The penalty is not a vacation, it's for a better nation. Those who murder in the first degree definitely deserve the worst.
Y-E-L-L, Y-E-L-L, everybody yell death penalty. Boo, death penalty. Boo.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to take questions from the audience.
Okay, our first question is, why did Jay Inslee halt the death penalty?
Jay Inslee halted the death penalty because he believed that he was not in the position to choose where someone lived or died.
Also, I want to remind the audience that if you guys have any questions, you can line up at the mic on the right. Okay. Our next question is going to be, are there any cases that have gone wrong?
There have been cases where lethal injection has gone wrong. They've either missed the bank and it's taken a lot longer to kill the criminal.
Our next question is, who does the lethal injection?
The lethal injection is done by licensed doctors, but it's not taught in medical school, so they have to just do it as they know.
And our last question will be, how long does it take for someone to die and how does it work?
So, the intended effect is for an individual to die in about 7 minutes. The way that lethal injection works is similar to that of euthanizing an animal. The criminal is given a shot, which is a very heavy anesthetic, which basically knocks them out. They're in a deep sleep. And then they are given 2 more shots where, in combination, working with the original shot, works to slow their heart rate and they die of cardiac arrest.
Also, in Washington State, criminals have the option, instead of lethal injection, to be hung. And this happens by putting a rope around them and then just dropping them.
It is, by the way, the criminal's choice whether they want to be hung or lethally injected. And all but the last 3 executions in Washington State by hanging.
All right, well, I would like to personally thank my pink group, not just the presenters, but everyone who worked hard to come up with this presentation. Thank you
Hello, my name is Carly Ariola, and this is the Green Group, and they're going to be talking about gun control. Please use the hashtags, hashtag WAKYG2015, along with the hashtag gun control. The spelling for that is hashtag GNCTRL when asking questions on Twitter so that the delegates may see them. Please hold all applause until after the questions.
Hello, I'm Rebecca from Lincoln County, and I want to inform you about a recent initiative involving gun control. Initiative 594 has risen as a large issue in Washington State, which affects all of Washington's gun owners. It was passed November of 2014, with 60% of people for it and 30% against it. Initiative 594 requires private sales and transfers to go through the same background checks as sales for licensed dealers. However, there are certain transactions that are exempt from background checks. These include gifts from immediate family, antiques and relics, temporary transfers for self-defense, and loans for lawful hunting and sporting activities. Colorado has already passed a law similar to 594 and has since prevented 227 prohibited purchases out of over 11,000 background checks. Many people are against 594 because of our Second Amendment, and many people are for it because they believe it will help prevent deaths and shootings. Let's take a deeper look into Initiative 594. And with that, I would like to introduce Olivia and Zara, who are representatives for the delegates that are in favor of Initiative 594.
Gun control. It's an issue that Washington has been dealing with for years. However, it's also one that is extensively misinterpreted.
Oodles of citizens believe that gun control is taking away their Second Amendment rights. However, the government is ignoring their right to bear arms. They're simply making it harder for convicted felons or mentally ill persons to get a hold of guns. The Second Amendment says, quote, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." No place in the Second Amendment does it imply that anybody, regardless of mental state, can bear arms. It also does not confirm that one person's right to bear arms should subside the other person's right to live. Not to mention the fact the Constitution was written 250 years ago when they couldn't have dreamed of firearms becoming this advanced. I cannot emphasize enough that we are not taking away your guns. We are only preventing mentally ill people from obtaining them.
As mentioned before, Colorado has prevented around 227 prohibited purchases out of 11,000 background checks. This
Access mentally ill people have to guns.
Actually, not so fun fact, people with serious mental illnesses have 4 times more of a risk of committing a serious and violent crime than the general population.
America is a country of freedom, and gun control will not fall.
Thank you, Olivia and Zara. And so now I'd like to introduce Ankit and Robert, who are representatives for the delegates that are not in favor of Initiative 594.
When you hear about a gun shooting, usually it's negative. The media focuses on how many people died, who the killer was, and his motivations to take innocent lives. Rarely do we hear about the lives saved by guns. Stay put, I'll shoot. Thursday afternoon, Monica Jones angrily pointed a shot at a man who was ripping off a 12-year-old girl's clothes. Miss Jones, a mother of 3, stated, "If someone was getting hurt, I can't close my door. She is nothing more than but a baby. If she were my child, I hope somebody would do the same for her." Law 594 should be revoked. Criminals aren't going to go through the motions to get a gun. One-sided reporting confuses the issue. It invites making a black market for guns. People that want to buy a gun can do so underneath the table. Chicago, for example, according to the New York Times, Chicago has a legal ban without a ban. Chicago has some of the toughest restrictions in the nation. And Chicago still replaced New York City as the murder capital of the world.
Does it matter? Over 33% of the population in Washington owns guns. The right to bear arms is protected in all states, as well as the National Rifle Association and the U.S. Constitution. Statistics show that violent crimes go down when more people legally carry guns. The right to carry arms has been on the rise since the early 1990s, while violent crime rates have decreased according to the NRA. The majority of gun massacres usually use legal weapons. Only guns bought from licensed dealers need a background check. This is a hole in our system because people can get guns from unlicensed dealers. Initiative 594 is a law that requires in-depth background checks, creating a longer waiting period to obtain a firearm. This is an unnecessary law with many flaws and holes, and it should be revoked.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we ask for the audience if they have any questions to line up. But your first question is, how severe of a mental illness would the consumer need to have for being denied the possession of a gun?
They would have to be, I have this on a list, a convicted felon. They could not have been any part of domestic violence or, and I think if there's like any record of mental breakdown, they have to go see somebody to make sure that they're okay with that.
Okay, the next question is, how does this affect 4-H?
This affects 4-H by the shooting sports, and when somebody goes up to shoot, and if it's not their gun, they would have to give the gun back to the original owner after they got done shooting. This will be harder for people to shoot because it's not your gun. So if you are under the age of 18, you are not allowed to transport a gun.
Okay, we have a question from the audience.
Now, how did the Sandy shooter acquire their guns?
The Sandy shooter stole the guns from a household, and so it's very possible that criminals, even if this law is in place, then criminals can still get guns even without going through the process.
Okay, I have another question from Twitter. By forcing background checks in all purchases, would this cause more under-the-table sales?
It would for criminals, but mentally ill people, it would prevent them from having it because they don't have access to the black market. Criminals would still have guns, but it would decrease the number of mentally ill people having guns, which is a benefit. And it doesn't cost any more money. So it is.
Okay, another question is, what content found within the background checks prevent Americans from their purchase of firearms?
So if you are deemed as you'd be deemed as mentally ill if you convict numerous crimes like kidnapping in the second degree, murder in the second degree, and the list goes on. You'll be deemed mentally ill and you are not allowed to buy a gun.
Okay, we have time for one more question. The question is there a solution to curb criminals from getting guns?
There really is no solution because the black market does exist, and if a criminal wants a gun and they still can't get it there, they can always break into someone's home and steal the gun.
Okay, I would like to say thank you to all the members of the Green Group for being amazing this weekend and for all of the work that they put in. So let's give them a round of applause.
Hello, my name is Sam, and I'm here with the Blue Group, and this weekend they studied Death with Dignity, the Death with Dignity Act, and how it relates to physician-aided death. If you would like to post a comment or a question, please use the hashtags WAQIG2015 and the hashtag DTHDIG. Remember to hold all applause until after the presentations have finished, after questions have finished.
The following skit contains facts but is not based on a true story. The Death with Dignity Act is an option of voluntary life termination chosen by a competent individual about actions to be taken when the individual is terminally ill. It often includes the implementation or withholding of treatments to the specific individual. The growing controversy of this issue is causing great tension between the morals of people involved.
Hi, I'm Madison Kelm and I'm 19 years old. I've been diagnosed with terminal cancer and I have 5 months to live. Each and every day I'm under increasing pain. I have chosen death with dignity because I don't want my family to watch me wither away, and I want to end my pain.
I'm Dr. George Sanchez, and I had Madison Klim as a patient. I diagnosed Madison Klim with terminal cancer. When she requested to have physician death, when she requested to have her life taken by the physicians, I couldn't do it. I've taken a Hippocratic oath, which means it is my job to help and heal the patients to the best of my ability, and I personally do not believe in ending someone's life with their health, and I have the legal right to refuse help to any treatment.
After my daughter Madison was denied physician-aided death by her doctor, we sought the help of a new physician that would allow her to go through with the process. After being with Madison every step of the way with her terminal illness journey, and as her mother, I wholeheartedly believe that my daughter should have the choice to end her life in peace when she feels that she is ready.
Hello, I'm one of Madison's best friends, and I feel as though, even though she's in a lot of pain, physician-aided death is not natural. I do love and support her, but I just feel as though it's not right. And another thing I do not understand is why somebody would want to end their life. And if suicide is illegal, how is assisted suicide legal?
I'm
Dr. Amy Bobbins, and after hearing Madison's story, I decided I would assist. Hearing the pain that she had gone through and the struggles that her family had gone through, I decided that I would help her with her physician-aided death. I believe all patients have the right to die on their own terms.
Madison Clem, after more time and discussion, decided physician-aided death. She spoke to a psychiatrist to reassure that she tested well in mental stability, receiving an okay from 2 witnesses and approval from 2 physicians. She was able to legally obtain the right to die with dignity. And she chose to end her life using 10 grams of pentobarbital, like 119 others in 2013.
So we're going to move on to questions.
So we have a microphone. The first question is from Twitter, and it says, how old does the patient need to be?
The patient has to be 18 years or older.
Thank you. If we believe a person committing suicide is mentally ill, how does that affect the qualification of somebody wanting death with dignity?
All patients that are seeking to use death with dignity are tested by a psychiatrist for mental stability, and if they do not pass the test, then they are unable to ask for death with dignity.
When was the Death with Dignity Act put into effect?
The Death with Dignity Act was passed November 4th of 2008 and was enacted or put into place in Washington State March 5th of 2009.
We have another question from that is there a minimum amount of time a person must wait before going through with a physician-assisted death?
So to get qualified for physician-aided death, you have to ask for physician-aided death 2 times, of course orally, spaced out 15 days apart, and then also 15 days apart from your last oral asking, you have to get a written asking form and have 2 witnesses sign that form that are not related by blood or by marriage.
So what I believe will be our final question, if there are no audience questions, is how does this affect the patient's family?
This can be a pretty personal question, but I would say that physician-aided death affects the family because rather than having to watch a loved one go through pain and suffering and maybe dying unexpectedly and going through a lot of pain, they can mentally have time to, they know it's coming, and so they can get ready and have their loved one die peacefully rather than in pain.
So I would like to thank the Blue Group for all the hard work they did. Everybody on stage and the audience did a really good job, and I'm very glad that they were my group.
The Yellow Group, and they will be speaking on the topic of minors in possession immunity, also called MIP. I would like you guys to use the hashtag WAKYG 2015, as well as hashtag MIP Immune, which is spelled MIPIMMUNE, in regard and posting your questions and comments on Twitter so that we can have these delegates answer for you. Please hold your applause until all the questions are finished.
Hello, I'm Julia Totterud.
I'm Morgan Harding.
I'm Spencer Gwynn.
I'm Kira Boatwright Frost.
I'm Madison Dow.
And we're here today to talk about minors in possession immunity, also known as MIP immunity. The moral conflict of being charged with a minor in possession for helping someone under the influence has stopped many people from seeking medical help. Would these 5 tables please stand? This table, this table, this table, this
this table.
All the people in this room were at a party with alcohol, and someone had alcohol poisoning. This 20% represented here claim they would call medics. Would all these tables be seated except for this one in the corner? Only this 4% would actually make that potentially life-saving call.
You may be seated.
On New Year's Eve, I was at a party with my friends, and one of my friends was drinking heavily. About halfway through the night, we noticed he wasn't standing around the fire with the rest of us. So, like any good friend would do, we went to find him in the parking area, where we did find him laying on the ground. He was soaking wet. He had fallen into a creek. We got hold of his ride, and we took him home because we did not know the severity of his condition. From that point, we called 911 and the ambulance came. They treated him for alcohol poisoning and hypothermia. After the hospital visit, we found that he could have potentially died from his condition that night.
So no charges were pressed because of the law that was created from House Bill 1404. The overall aim of the law, which was passed on 5th of March 2013, is to prevent alcohol-related deaths in minors resulting from fear of being charged with minor possession. The main sponsor of the bill, Representative Marco Liam, is quoted saying, "The bill is just trying to send that message to young people that when you're in trouble or your friend is in trouble, call 911. Get the help you need."
The main concerns to the opposition of the MIP immunity include the concern of the minors not dealing with the consequences from their actions. The minors who act on the law will not be charged the first 3 to 4 times this occurs. You will be charged after that. There are also concerns that this law could be used as a safety net for teens to drink. Also, most of the teens in need of this law are binge drinking.
On the other hand, this law acts to potentially prevent more teen alcohol-related deaths. Currently, 11% of alcohol consumed in the U.S. is by teens ages 12 to 20, and in 2010, about 189,000 ER visits were related to alcohol consumption of minors. Also, once a minor is charged with MIP, it's permanently.
Cornell University implemented a similar alcohol amnesty protocol. This resulted in an increase in alcohol-related medical calls, but a decrease in emergency room visits, meaning the more people are seeking help before the issue becomes an emergency.
Would you rather punish yourself for someone's death or save a life?
Thank you. The first question is, how do you suggest we prevent people from abusing this law?
To stop abuse of this law, we could lower the rates of charges. So instead of being charged on the 4th time and actually having to go through being actually serving your time, shorten it to first 1 or 2 times.
Do you guys think, this one's from Twitter, do you guys think that there is any other step which could be taken in order to effectively minimize underage alcohol consumption?
For that question, I would have to say I know as teens we're talked to a lot about alcohol is not the best place, and we do, people under the influence make stupid decisions, but if we reach a larger audience and let them know personal stories like as the one I just shared, person no longer drinks, he does not party. So when people understand the real consequences and it's closer to their heart and closer to home, it affects them in a larger way than just telling them that it's bad. So I think that would be a good step.
Do you guys have any statistics on whether the number of minor and alcohol poisoning deaths have gone down since this law?
Since this is a relatively new law, no statistics have been gathered in the state of Washington. However, we can see the results posed from for example, the Cornell University Alcohol Amnesty Protocol.
Thank you. I would personally like to congratulate the Yellow Group on doing so well yesterday in preparing this presentation. They stepped up and did it entirely all on their own, and so that includes their whole Yellow Group. Can we thank them, please?
Hello, my name is Sydney Grutt, and I'm here with the Purple Color Group. They will be speaking about standardized testing. Please use the hashtags WAKYG2015 and hashtag STNDtest when posting your questions and comments on Twitter so they can be seen, as well as coming from the audience to the mic at the side of the room.
In the year 2000, the U.S. ranked 18th in the world in math and then fell to 31st place in 2009. Many believe that this is the fault of standardized testing. We've all been in the stressful position of taking a standardized test, and there are certainly a lot of pros and cons to the system. What do you think?
Standardized testing allows teachers the opportunity to be held responsible to their test results. From a young age, accountability is instilled in us. Standardized tests are a tangible way to keep students and teachers accountable. Instead of just passing along to the next grade, standardized tests are a more effective way to evaluate knowledge to ensure that all students are given the same opportunities to succeed.
Standardized testing is showing positive results for Washington. Washington State currently ranks in the top 10% for the Washington State or United States of testing results. However, 4-Hers believe that we should always make the best better, and we should continue to raise the standards of excellency in Washington State.
Of course, economics play an important role in any situation. Standardized tests cost Washington taxpayers millions of dollars a year. At present, Washington State spends $24 million a year on standardized testing. This investment does help provide solid evidence on student achievement, but at present is not as economically sound as it could be. If Washington State instead turned to a more effective method for testing, standardized tests could prove to be more worthwhile for making sure tomorrow's citizens are well educated.
In addition, many people believe that the current testing system is not an accurate measure of intelligence, as every student has a different way of learning and expressing their knowledge. Most standardized tests cover very specific standards. Although all students have certain skills, there are many immeasurable qualities that are key to a person's success. As a high school dropout, David Karp, the founder of Tumblr, would have done very poorly on this test. However, as evidenced by his success, he has traits of vision, courage, and ingenuity that are overlooked by standardized tests. How many people like him have been disregarded by the public school system because of a failure to check a box?
Gerald W. Bracey once said that standardized testing cannot measure creativity, critical thinking, resilience, motivation, or persistence. It cannot measure reliability, enthusiasm, or empathy. Will there ever be an end to the constant back and forth between testing advocates and those against standardized testing? It's hard to say, but we feel relatively certain that for better or for worse, standardized testing is here to stay. We believe that the key is to use test results as a guide for the teachers, parents, and students.
They should also be used in a limited capacity to assess how well schools are doing. Standardized testing certainly should be used to help measure a school's success, but it should be one assessed among several that determines whether or not schools are progressing or not.
Our first question is, we use the example of Chinese standardized testing a lot. How is theirs different from the US?
Many people would agree that the Chinese system focuses a lot on checking boxes, whereas the American system of public schools in general really focuses on developing a person as a whole. Historically, Americans have been very cutting edge because we are very creative, very courageous, and willing to take a risk and try something new. And that is shown by all of the wonderful entrepreneurs that we have had here in our history in the United States. And so that is why I think that the United States, even though we rank lower on the standardized testing scale, is still very, very competitive in the world market because we have qualities that other countries simply don't emphasize in their schools.
The next question is, do you have any solutions in mind for a compromise?
Currently in the legislature, there is a bill being introduced that talks about smarter balanced assessments. So this is something that potentially could be the future of standardized testing. These tests over a series of years, if this bill is passed, would replace the current test. So it would be one larger test maybe taken in a series of days, but instead of taking multiple tests, this would be one test to cover every subject needed. Also, we as a group hope that the public school system will continue to try to find new ways to test these traits that we were talking about. Even though sometimes it's impossible to test whether someone is courageous or not, by simply emphasizing them in the classroom and giving students opportunities like we have in 4-H to try new things and be willing to learn, we believe that Washington State can continue to be one of the best states in the U.S. in terms of growing in knowledge.
We have a question from the mic.
Okay, you said a quote earlier about how things like creativity, so like that can't be measured by standardized tests, but why do you think those are so overlooked?
I would say the main reason why they're overlooked is because they're simply untestable. We only really focus on things that are testable, and when they're not, it's very hard to set a standard for courage. But I think that these traits are still very, very important in developing new products and reaching new markets in the world system.
And our final question is going to be, what effects does standardized on our educators and teachers?
I would say there's actually a two-sided effect that standardized tests have on our educators and teachers, and this can go both for and against the teachers. On the one hand, a lot of times standardized testing will encourage teachers to teach to a full capacity in order to make sure that students aren't just passed along. Before standardized testing, there were people who were graduating from high school who were illiterate. With standardized tests, this makes illiteracy almost impossible for a high school graduate. However, standardized tests also encourage teaching to the test by teachers, and this is where they skip large parts of the curricula in order to focus on those parts that will be tested. And so this is one of the things that can actually limit the creativity in the classroom and limit the development of a whole person instead of a cookie cutter person that will do very well on standardized tests.
I'd like to thank the Purple Group. It's such a pleasure working alongside them, everybody at the Purple Group, while they put this all together. So thank you guys. talk about their issue of coal trains. Please remember that while they're presenting, use the hashtag WAKYG2015, as well as the hashtag for our group, which is COALTRN. Also, remember to come up to the mic to ask questions and hold your applause until all the questions are finished. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are currently plans to develop the largest coal export facility in North America at Cherry Point in northwest Washington State. The Gateway Pacific Terminal, a project of Pacific International Terminals, would be owned by SSA Marine, which is owned by Carrick's, partnered with Goldman Sachs. Coal mined from the Powder River Basin by Peabody Energy would be hauled by trains along BNSF rail lines. The coal train corridor extends from mines in Montana and Wyoming through Sandpoint, Idaho, Spokane, down through the Columbia River Gorge, then up along the Puget Sound coast, passing through Longview, Tacoma, Seattle, Edmonds, Everett, Mount Vernon, Bellingham, Ferndale, and on all points in between. I am here to introduce unto you the effects that coal trains can have upon the environment, the economy, the traffic, and the dangers of derailments. Our proposed solutions to these problems is to cover the coal trains with some form of a covering object. We do understand that this can be dangerous due to the fact that the coal can explode if it's covered. But we also understand that this solution could have a better effect rather than bad effect upon our state if explored and developed further.
I'd like to inform you of the situation pertaining to coal trains traveling through Washington State and the effects that it can have upon the economy. The possibilities offered by coal trains include increase in the job market, international dealings, as well as new uses for coal trains. The job market could have an increase of 150,000 new jobs nationally if new terminals are built. Building these new terminals could also increase relations with China, considering the fact that China buys 25% of our nation's coal per year. Along with job increase and overseas relations, coal can be used in soaps, solvents, fabrics, and many other products besides. Coal trains can also be detrimental to the economy as they may take away local business in small towns, and the cost of cleaning up a train derailment is significant.
Coal trains have a large effect on the environment. One of the major effects is the release of coal dust. Anywhere from 500 pounds to 1 ton of coal dust is released from every train car every trip. The release of that much coal damages the train's ballast and the railway cranes. This dust is also responsible for the leaching of toxic metals into water supplies. Some of these metals include mercury, cadmium, arsenic, barium, chromium, lead, and selenium. The shifting dust is even generated when it does not reside on the train. With the combination of wind and bulldozers trying to push it back into piles, more dust is created. This constant motion helps to prevent spontaneous combustion, but the result is this dust can also cause health problems for people. These problems include cancers and diseases of the cardiovascular and respiratory systems, as well as asthma. In the year of 2010, a report was created from the Clean Air Task Force that revealed coal power plants in the United States alone are expected to cause 13,200 deaths, as well as 9,700 additional hospitalizations and 20,000 heart attacks. The toll on the environment could potentially be reduced if train cars carrying coal were covered.
Coal trains can be up to 7,000 feet long and are expected to be up to 8,500 feet long in the future, which can cause significant traffic delays. The total of trips made by coal trains is on average 10 trips a day, and a new terminal proposed in Bellingham would allow for 38 additional trains per day. The coal trains can take from 2 to 10 minutes to pass, causing people to be annoyed, which means they are staying away from places near the tracks, not to mention the exhaust put into the air has pollution. With congested traffic, people are staying away from downtown areas of local towns, and what you have to cross tracks to get there. The Skagit County delegation, who researched coal trains extensively, Executive Director Ellen Gamson of the Downtown Association about her topics on coal trains. Gamson said, "Because I'm the head of the Downtown Associations, trains pass through adjacent to where I work all the time. People don't want to wait in the extra time to get into town." She also addressed the issue with additional traffic and long wait times at railroad crossings. Emergency vehicles are delayed, putting citizens at risk.
A coal train derailed traveling towards the Columbia River Gorge, Pasco, Washington, on July 2, 2012, spilling coal from 31 cars. The train was transporting coal from the Powder River Basin in Wyoming to the coal export terminal in British Columbia. Oregon and Washington are now threatened with 6 new coal export proposals, which together would require 30 full and 30 empty new coal trains every day. This recent derailment may foreshadow additional problems in coal train frequency increases. The derailment, which dumped over 6 million pounds of coal, blocked the busy street tracks that lead to the Columbia River Gorge in Oregon, forcing BNSF to reroute trains. Main causes of these derailments are mechanical errors, defective wheels, human errors, track defects, traveling too fast, and improper use of brakes. The aftermath of these derailments are severe. Injury and death may happen to the conductor or the people around the accident. Physical property damage. When the coal spills, it pollutes the air and the water around it. Surrounding area could possibly catch on fire. Cost of clean tarnished land and damage to the train, and the cost of the lost revenue. A few more questions to ask yourself is, will the covering of the coal help make the coal trains not derail and have less coal in the trains? What can we do to stop the
trains? With further research done on a material to cover the cars, the detrimental impact of the transportation of coal can be lessened. If we transport coal as it is now and increase the amount of trains and coal, the environment, economy, and citizens will suffer. Thank you for your time.
All right, we are going to go to some questions from Twitter. At Kittitas KYG asks, if coal cannot be transported through Washington, do you have suggestions on another plan for power and heat?
We will follow up on that.
Alrighty, another one from at white_Taryn4. On your opinion, do the cons or pros outweigh the other?
My opinion, there are a lot of pros as well as cons. Pros being heat and energy, all that, and the cons, like we just discussed, health issues, traffic problems. I personally think that the well-being of our country is a little more important than it's obviously health and all that is very important, but overall, I think that the pros outweigh the cons because of just energy and all the things that coal is used for.
All right, a question from Nazy Daisy 7. Would banning coal trains help us learn to not rely so strongly on our natural finite resources?
We will follow up on that as well.
Another question from Twitter. What are some of the effects of breathing in coal over a series of weeks?
We will follow up on that one.
Actually, we know that. Some of the effects of breathing in coal is like asthma, bad respiratory diseases, heart attacks, stuff like that. Stuff like that, you know. Yeah.
Which is way, way dirtier. What's your opinion on that?
China is actually making a coal plant once every week, and so obviously their coal production is going to go up, obviously every single week. So we don't really have to worry China, but it is a good moneymaker for U.S. and Washington to send coal by train to China. So hopefully that will answer your question.
All right, we have another question from Twitter. What does coal do to fish?
When a derailment happens or the dust from the trains goes off the coal that is not covered, it gets into the water and the fish obviously like swim in water. So it gets into the fish's system, and the fish that we eat also have that in them. So it's like it just causes a lot of problems, especially with the air pollution too with birds. And so yeah, fish like have it in their system and then we eat it. So that's a problem.
All right, your last question is going to be, how do coal trains affect 4-H?
Coal trains affects 4-H by the products that we use here. Like obviously, hopefully we all use soap. So it's just stuff like that. The products that we use coal for, we need the coal trains to get these products to us and to the manufacturers, and so that's how 4-H.
All right, thank you. I would like to thank my red group for all of your hard work and dedication to our topic and for being flexible and resourceful. You've taught me that for optimum success in a group project, it really does take all kinds of kinds. I hope that you learned about our topic, realized the importance of your digital citizenship, and hopefully, thank you guys again.
I hope you've enjoyed your breakfast. Standing behind me, I have a group of youth who would like to make you question what you've just eaten. I'm standing here with the black group, and they are going to discuss the topic of GMO food labeling. Please use the hashtag WackyG2015 along with the hashtag GMO label. Once again, that is GMOLBL. Please reserve your applause for the end of the session. Thank you.
A topic of much importance today is the labeling of GMOs on food products. We are all entitled to our own opinion, but like every story, there are two sides. Because we each have different sides, we need to consider and therefore respect their right to an opinion. As you hear in a moment, each side of the argument has merit.
We believe you have a choice in GMO labeling because every consumer has the right to know what's in their food. When Oregon began GMO labeling, the price per consumer per year raised $2.30. This is a negligible cost compared to the security of knowing what's in your food.
According to Brown University, GMO foods can present allergies because genetic markers and proteins that weren't originally there can cause new allergic reactions in the human body. Product with GMOs, allergens in it without knowing the allergen's origin, they cannot know what the actual allergy is. GMO labeling would save lives by showing allergens and helping pinpoint allergic reactions.
You have the choice to avoid GMO products. Join 93% of Americans in promoting GMO labeling.
The effect of labeling with GMO products has a large influence among corporate and agricultural aspects in the industry. And along with it, it also has surprisingly significant negative effects to different people in not only large symbols in the industry, but local small businesses as well. Different farmers require certain varieties for their resources, and lots of them use GMO within their seeds. By labeling these products, it could greatly disrupt certain portions in the industry by making consumers feel obligated to avoid them regardless of the type of modification that has been included. This brings up very specific issues regarding laws that require labeling as a mandatory enforcement, and that affects both large companies and small and local agricultural sources as well, due to the potential of large drops in sales.
A company should be able to choose which labels they put on their product. If it negatively affects them, why should they have to? Also, GMOs have been affecting us in more ways than we know. For instance, 4 corporations now own over 50% of the seed market. This has left farmers with fewer seed options and seed varieties, fewer options for seed varieties, which could greatly affect them if the GMO labeling is put into effect. Additionally, GMOs have been around for at least 20 years, but only in the past 5 years have they been considered a major issue. And as Richard Dawkins once said, to label one unnatural is to label them all unnatural. No agriculture is natural.
Respectfully saying, there has been no scientific research about the GMO genetically modified organism itself, saying if it's harmful or helpful. Furthermore, to back this up, the Washington Post has proclaimed there is no reliable evidence that genetically modified foods on the market do not pose any threat to the consumers. GMOs have not been proven to be dangerous or beneficiary to the consumer.
That being said, both subjects should be researched more thoroughly before coming to a resolute opinion. Be sure to look more deeply into the story before judging either side's views. In conclusion, we are just two sides of the same coin. For more information, please look up past
and cons. And as Wesley said, there hasn't been a lot of proven facts for health, but as I stated, it does have an effect on triggering allergies, and the genetic mix can change people's allergies, which, so if the genetic makeup is different, then depending on what that genetic makeup is, then their allergies could be different.
Your next question from Twitter is it true that Monsanto holds the better half of GMOs?
Monsanto is a big producer of GMOs because they also own Roundup, which has GMOs in it.
How does this affect our farmers and agricultures?
I believe from my research that this would affect the farmers because it does cost them money to have their products labeled based on whether they are natural and non-GMOs or have GMOs in them, as well as the consumer who has to pay a little extra for what they are buying when it is labeled.
Have GMOs been proven to be unhealthy? And can you tell us about the impact of winter wheat on health?
We will follow up on that.
Thank you very much. That will be all for our questions. I would like to group for all of their time, energy, critical thinking, and self-responsibility that they have put into this project. It's been a privilege working with all of you. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, welcome to KYG 2015. Thanks for being with us today. Today, I'm here with representatives from the Orange Group, and we're going to talk on the $15 minimum wage. Please remember to tweet in questions and comments to wage15. That's hashtag WAGE15. If you have a question from the audience, please go to the mic and ask it at the end of the presentation.
I'm John Smith. I'm a small business owner. I just recently found out that they were going to raise the minimum wage to $15. My budget can't support that. I might collapse.
As a child, to see the results of the $15 minimum wage, an experiment was put into play on January 1st, 2014 in the city of SeaTac, which includes Seattle, Tacoma, and the international airport areas. Seattle City Manager Todd Cutt says that little impact has been noticed on the overall economy 1 year after the SeaTac experiment. Because of the raise in wage, small business employers are taking away employee privileges along with reducing employee count to compensate for the increase in wage. Gross wage increase employment security, which raises their gross taxes.
I'm a single parent. If we were to raise the minimum wage to $15, it would help me be able to have more affordable living with little to or no state assistance. It would provide the opportunity for more jobs. It would give me the ability to make it easier to afford education to better my future so I can provide for my family. We have a more comfortable living to provide for my family without having to worry what's coming next. Lastly, there is a statistic from the Tampa Bay Times that states there was a little over 3.5 million net jobs that were gained over the last 11 federal minimum wage increases, in which 4 of the jobs decreased, although the other 7 of the jobs increased, to help support us as an individual in our community.
Hello, I am Senator Chancellor. I predict that the wage increase of $15 will do more harm to our poor and middle class than good. Because of this rate increase, employers will most likely cut back hours until their revenue can meet their demands for payroll. So your net will actually be the same, if not lower, than before the wage increase.
Hi, I'm a college student. My thoughts are if the $15 minimum wage is passed, I will be able to pay my rent, my student loans, and I will be able to get healthier food to eat.
I'm a student just out of high school. I decided to enter the workforce. I could have decided to get an education, but what's the point? My pay is only slightly lower than most other people who have a higher education, and going to school is a lot of effort to make the same amount of money.
The $15 minimum wage bill is expected to be introduced to the Washington legislature sometime within the next 5 years. While we can see some positive benefits of this in people's lives, such as single parents or college students, it would put some like small businesses, at a risk of financial ruin.
So we'll now be taking questions from Twitter. The first one is, what do you think some long-term effects may be?
Okay, so if it doesn't end up working, it could decline our economy and actually put us more into debt. But if it does, it would be a better economy and like rise more.
The next question is, how do they plan on implementing this?
Okay, so once the legislature, if they end up passing the bill, they're gonna start over the years, like every single year they'll start raising the minimum wage to like $14, $13, and then it will go up. And they want to have it done by 2020 to have it up to $15.
We have a question from the audience.
In the SeaTac experiment, did housing go up or food go up? Did anything other than the wage go up?
staffing noticeably went up. However, small businesses, they were at a competitive disadvantage. And other than that, no.
So we have another question from Twitter. Does a higher minimum wage overvalue work that is worthless? Worthless. Would there still be an incentive to improve skills?
No.
So then another question is, we have another live question. So.
In our very minimum wage to $15 would allow first-generation immigrants, those just entering the workforce, college students, and others like single parents to be able to live comfortably off their minimum wage job.
Other Twitter question is, how would the wage raise affect events like our county fairs that are already having funding issues? Okay. How would a wage raise affect events like our county fairs that are already having funding issues?
It would probably affect in a negative way because we're already having issues of funding it for other things that we wouldn't be able to hire as many people for the jobs that need to be done.
Last question. Why raise it to $15 specifically?
Like I said before, raising the minimum wage to $15 would allow those like first-generation immigrants, college students, people just entering the workforce, and single parents to provide for their families.
Thank you. So I just want to thank everybody from the Orange Group who participated in researching this topic. I had a lot of fun with you guys, and it was really a great learning experience. So if I can have everybody from the Orange Group just stand up in the crowd. First, let me say you guys all did a great job. Be proud of yourselves for all the hard work you put into this conference and the excellent job you did at the town hall meeting. As technology moves forward, we develop new ways to communicate our ideas. Responsible citizenship changes as media changes. The skills you've learned this weekend will help you as you grow and become active citizens. Thank you all.